All right, back to the round table discussion. We've eliminated 4. Kevin Harvick, just bad. Really, 3 out of the 4 guys were Fords, and all of them were former Daytona 500 champions. How about that?
And 2 of them were former Cup Series champions.
Man, that is something.
I just want to
Bubba
see Harvick win a race before he retires.
Right.
I can see it. But there's 2 things I kind of want to note here. One was, as you mentioned, Chris, I did question Joey Logano because with Logano on the odd number years, so we're in 2023, he's always off. He's always off. It doesn't matter how far he goes, but he just, for some reason, with the odd number years, it's just not his year. And everyone has that stat. And it probably haunts him. It's probably starting to haunt him now. The other note I want to mention, this is kind of more of a stat of the day sort of deal. Bubba Wallace overcame the second largest deficit in NASCAR playoffs history to advance in an elimination race on points. And he entered the playoffs at -19 and ended up with +4.
Wow.
Hey, way to go. Yeah, we've got we need to give the guy some slack. We need to give him some credit. He's racing better now than what he has in the past. But it's expected, right? I mean, this is the 3rd year of having good money. You got to figure it out, and he's proven it. All we ever wanted was to know that the investment was for good cause and not another waste of time like we had with Danica Patrick, right? Bubba was always showing that he could win races. It just took him longer to get there.
Exactly. So, with that being said, we got round of 12
He'll
now.
be eliminated this round.
Agreed.
So,
he won't make it to the round.
Hold on. Let's go through our list of drivers, top to bottom.
Wait. Let's start with the tracks in this series.
All right.
All
right. So the 3 tracks in this round, we start off with Texas, then we go to Talladega, then we end the round with the Charlotte Road Course, whatever you want to call it. The 12 drivers in the playoffs still remaining are William Byron, regular season champion Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and Bubba Wallace. Now, I did do a average finish type of deal for this round of tracks with these 12 drivers. And if I read off to you who's in the bottom 4, you may be shocked that at least one of them, if not 2 of them,
the floor is yours.
Well, we are looking at right now the bottom 4 in average finish with an 18.7 is Chris Buescher. Then it's Kyle Larson with a 19.9. Then you go to Bubba Wallace with a 21.2. And then Ross Chastain with a 23.3.
The only one that surprises me is Larson.
And right now, with how things are looking for this round, I think Chris Buescher might make it out of here for 2 reasons.
Talladega
and Charlotte Roval. We've seen how RFK has performed with the super speedway races, so I think Chris Buescher might be all right with that one, and with how he's ran on road courses. It wouldn't surprise me if he makes it through with that. The only question mark that he's got for this round is Texas, and that's his worst average finish in this round. That's a 23.3. Kyle Larson, his struggle point is Talladega, which doesn't surprise me any because he's not much of a super speedway racer. Bubba Wallace's struggle points are Charlotte and Texas. Ross Chastain, he has the same struggle points, but they're worse than Bubba Wallace. So with that being said, the floor is open.
Well, I'm with Chris. I don't think Bubba makes it past this round.
I don't see it either. I think Talladega's his only light of hope. And you can't really bank on that for a round like this.
Right.
Yeah, Bubba Wallace is probably the weakest.
I can see Buescher making it pass. But just because, like you laid it out, he's good at Talladega. We know that. You know, and
and good at the road course.
Roval maybe. I see.
And the way. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I know Talladega is going to be Larson's downfall. But I'm not quite sure I see him getting eliminated this round.
I think Larson can do fine at Texas. Talladega is going to be the biggest question mark.
Right.
I honestly think Larson can make it through if he gets a good performance at Charlotte.
Well, him and dirt.
But I'm going to try breaking this down here. So if we look at just the average finish of the Roval, which just about everybody in this round has fairly the same amount of starts, Larson is on the bottom 4 of all these drivers. So I think if he can make up something with this track, he may be able to make it through. Obviously, if he wins Texas, he has nothing to worry about for the next 2 races. But if he doesn't, I would have to. If I were Larson, I would circle Charlotte and say, look, this is the track we need to have our A game on, because if we don't, we might be going home.
Well, all right. I'm
going
to throw a wild card. I'm going to throw a wild card out there. Blaney.
I can see him getting through. And here's why. He's got the second best average finish of all drivers in this round. Texas and Talladega, he sits at a pretty decent 15th place average finish. Charlotte, he's one of 2 drivers in this playoff field of 12 that have an average finish of inside the top 10. And Blaney has obviously won on the Roval before. He's won at Talladega before. He has won at Texas despite being an all-star race, but he has won there. So all three of these tracks, he has potential of winning at.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, Joe Logano won a championship too, and he can't get out of the first round. So Blaney and Chastain are my two guys that I know I feel like are going to have a hard time transferring to the next round. Bill is up in the air, so I'm putting a vote for Chastain to be gone.
I can go
Blaney.
with that. I can go with Chastain on that one. I think his only strong suit would be Talladega. I don't see him being much of a threat. Honestly, the Charlotte Roval, I think he has the worst average finish of the 12 playoff drivers, and I think he's sitting the lowest as well for Texas. So it seems like he doesn't have a thing for Texas.
Yeah, I'm good with Chastain not making it too.
So we got Bubba and Chastain crossed off.
Yeah, and then it gets sticky because how much are you really buying into the RFK cars? I think they had one of the best rounds of the playoffs this past round.
Yeah, but you have to think about how these tracks favor Chris, you know?
Right.
I mean, as I've mentioned...
Yeah, they favor his style racing. They really do.
Exactly.
Yes. Talladega and Charlotte Roval play into Chris Buescher. Brad Keselowski plays into Talladega. I think that's his strongest track of this round. I think, in my personal opinion, I'm not questioning it as much with Larson. But I think if he can get through... if he can get a good finish with Texas, Talladega is obviously suits his wheelhouse as well. I think if he can get through Texas, he'll be all right.
Talladega is such a crapshoot, though.
And so is Texas. Really, this is the round of chaos, right? I mean, you got Texas, no telling what the hell's going to happen there. You got the road.
Right.
Is it going to be a boring road course race, or is it going to be the Roval? You know, they over the last year they really raced the Roval. You know, like the road course, there wasn't very much action. It was like they got it figured out all of a sudden.
A couple of things I want you guys to think about here too, with how these playoffs work, and it's usually this round here too, as Chris has mentioned. Let's think of the last round. Martin Truex Jr. If you have two bad races, you can be the regular season champion and rack up all those playoff points and be under the cutoff line and somehow barely make it through.
Yeah.
Look at the championship year Kyle Larson had at one point, and I do believe it was at this round, the round of 12. He was on the outside looking in at one point.
Yeah, and Truex, Truex is a perfect example of that. You know, how close he really was to getting eliminated, actually. He has to be a kind of a bubble situation as well.
You know what?
This one's a lot harder. I think we voted Chastain and we voted Wallace for sure, but from that point, you know, to find two more to eliminate it, you know, it's really just a roll of the dice because does Tyler Reddick, you know, does he carry the momentum into these next three races? He's been an up and down driver all year long. William Byron, I mean, we've not discussed him one bit, but that guy's been streaky too. And, I mean, when I mean streaky, he can win all three or lose all three. I mean, so we don't know.
You guys may think I'm out of whack on this, but I highly think we may see a Kyle Busch exit in this round.
Wow.
But I think I can see William Byron and Tyler Reddick move on.
Whoa.
William Byron, he has run very well at mile-and-a-half races this year. And obviously he's won a few of them. So I don't think Texas will be a problem. We know with super speedway races, William Byron can get the job done if things fall his way. He does have the fourth best average finish at Talladega amongst the 12 playoff drivers. Charlotte Roval will be the question mark for him. So I do believe William Byron will be okay. Tyler Reddick, on the other hand, 2 of these 3 tracks, he has an average finish inside the top 10. That's Texas and Charlotte. Talladega is going to be, just like Larson, Talladega is not suiting him at all. So I have a good feeling that Tyler Reddick will go on, and I have a good feeling William Byron will move on. And personally, I think Kyle Busch may have bitten the dust on this round.
Yeah. You know what? He's overachieved in the equipment.
I don't see Kyle Busch's consistency as of late as we saw in the first part of the season.
But knocking him out of the top 10, I mean, that's, I guess, I don't know. But I based off of the type of season Kyle Busch has had, and knowing, like, we've not talked about Kyle Busch, right? He's been irrelevant. And that's basically terms for termination. So I will have to ride with you. I will have to ride with you on this one, Taz.
I'm on board, too.
All right, so we've eliminated 3 drivers. Are we okay with moving drivers over in terms of can we move them on to the next round?
Yeah. I pretty much already have my final guy that I believe will be eliminated. And I'm not sure you guys are going to anywhere agree with it, but I have a feeling this driver was almost eliminated this time. Maybe it says a little bit more about what's going on in his head. Obviously, highs of highs, lows of lows. I would not be surprised to see Martin Truex Jr. make it out of this
We're same page.
Yep.
Same
I was
page.
thinking the same thing because I mean, I know for a few months now he hasn't been with Sherry, but in some way or form, it's got to affect him.
Absolutely.
It could affect him in the other way. It could, but I'm not. I think there's a little bit of negative press being pushed around this. I'm not going to get into the story and whatnot. I believe a certain commentator / sport promoter, I guess, whatever she was reprimanded and fired by Sky Sports today because of some insensitive
did she get fired?
Comments. She got fired. Yes, she did.
Yay.
She got fired. Sky Sports let her go.
She was so out of line.
Right. It said whatever. It said what a lot of people wanted to question. I think she was defending a power woman to another power woman. I think there was something to that. I think that's the reason why she said it.
No.
You think
As
it was just
woman,
for attention?
It was
you think it was just for attention?
insensitive, and that's all I'm going to say. And that's that. But yes, I agree on putting Martin on that list just because. And you know what? And not just because of what he might be going through emotionally right now, but because he hasn't performed.
Right. He had earlier in the season.
He got in on he squeaked into this round by points. So, yeah, I agree with putting him on the list.
I mean, it's bound to happen. Like I said, last round he was under the cut line. Kyle Larson's big comeback championship season, at one point he was under the cut line. He was looking on the outside going in.
No. Joe Logano basically kept Martin Truex Jr. from being eliminated.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah, that if it hadn't been for that wreck.
And one thing I do want to read off here is that Martin Truex Jr., let me go through his average finishes quick. In this little chart I have made up, he ranks 7th of 12. 16.9 average finish in the round. But he's got 14.5 at Texas, 21.4 at Talladega, and a 14.8 at Charlotte. Obviously, what I just read off, Talladega is his red mark. It's not going to go over well for him. So it's really going to be make and break at Texas and Charlotte. Kyle Busch, his strongest track in this round is Texas.
It is Talladega. What? Speaking of Talladega, too, y'all.
No. That's not his
Kyle
strongest
Busch
track
is pretty
at
good
this round.
Talladega. Well, I mean, he's pretty good at it. Talladega's too much of a crapshoot to be throwing his strongest track.
I mean, he's got the mentality. I think. See, here's the difference I see with Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch, and I'm not trying to knock on Kyle Busch any, because I do think he's a well-talented driver, and so is Brad and as well. I think with Kyle Busch versus Brad Keselowski, when it comes to super speedway races, I think both of them do show up to those tracks with a mentality of we're playing chess in a checkers game, but I think Brad has the better winning mentality versus Kyle Busch.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Again, not knocking on either one of those two by anything I've said, but there's something with super speedway races, you have the act for it, but the question is, how well can you play the game with it? And I think Brad Keselowski of modern day is one of the best drivers to do it. He shows up playing chess in a checkers game, and he's just smart how to do it. Mm-hmm. And besides, if you look at it with his Penske days, I think there was one year, I want to say it was, it's either 2018 or 2019. I don't remember which year. But he has won Talladega during the playoffs.
Right.
So he knows the mentality of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a big-time supporter. I think both Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski is going to make it to the Final Four. I mean, until you show me a streak of 3 races where they don't perform, they have performed at every racetrack and every type of racetrack on the circuit. Okay, and they've been one of the fastest race cars each weekend at these tracks. Every week for the last 8 weeks. They have proved they turn the juices up at the right time. And they're performing their best at the right time. Now, it could all slip out from underneath them, and they could be eliminated this round, But I think that they've really got something that's working, and they're one of the best and the fastest teams in point in time. I would not be surprised to see one or both in the Final Four. It's going to take a couple wins to get them there. But, like I said, Keselowski is biting at he's chomping at the bit. He's almost there. You know, he's almost there. So do I think Keselowski's going to win this year? Damn right I do. Is it going to come at the Roval? Probably not. Could it come at Texas? Yeah. Could it come at Talladega? Absolutely. If Brad Keselowski isn't one of your favorites for Talladega, I would question the entire year. But I know, Keselowski's going to be a favorite. And he may get the win before then.
Brad Keselowski is a contender, not a favorite.
Oh, no, you are wrong, dude. You are wrong. This guy's got as many wins as Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Hey, I'm with you, but I had to throw in a little bit of,
Yeah. Well, Chris Buescher is his teammate, so he'll have to push him to the win, obviously. But I think Chris owes him one anyway,
I think Buescher should owe Brad a favor.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we know how that works when Jimmy Johnson got pushed to the checker flag by Junior. And I hate to spoil it, but I feel like we were all on the same page. It was obvious. Like Martin Truex Jr. barely made it. I think we've kind of given him a pass on what's been going on. Look, in these situations, a lot of times you'll see the best out of athletes, or you can see the fizzle of the athlete. Where Martin Truex goes from here, I don't know. Could it be that he has a newfound inspiration to go out and win one for Sherry? We don't know. We'll see. And I think that some of the negative press is probably beating at him, and we will probably hear more from Martin about this situation come this weekend when the races come back. So, I think it caught us all by surprise.
And I did think about that today, like, as you said, Chris, like, I thought of it at one point as, will he use that as a motivation?
Motivation, yes.
But at the same time, like, how much does this really affect him, though, too? Because, like I said, he's been with her for, like, over 10 years? I don't remember the exact timeline, but I think it was for quite a while. And obviously he's I just think that we don't really know his real, true personal feelings on this. Do we need to know? Not necessarily, but how much of this event will affect his performance? Obviously, we saw last year, obviously something was going on behind the curtains we didn't know about that affected his year last year. And it showed because not only was he was a top 5 points driver, but he didn't win. He didn't make the playoffs.
Okay.
And when obviously the news broke out that they separated at the beginning of the season, it seemed like Truex maybe had a weight lifted off his shoulders. But maybe with him not performing as well in the first round, how much of this event will affect him this time around?
Right.
I will tell you that I know, regardless of what their relationship status was, the man is heartbroken. There's no doubt about that. The real question is how it's going to affect his racing. And like Chris said, it could spur him on to do better than we expect. It could leave him where we've put him in eliminating him this round. So, that is a big question. And you can't discount the human side of our drivers.
Right. Exactly.
So, it remains to be seen, exactly how this affects his performance. And there should be no criticism of his performance.